Hey guys, welcome to the help video for quiz 4.01b. Now this quiz is still about circles, but there is a ton of need to know info. Alright, so in the last help video we talked about the equation of a circle in standard form, where h and k is the center and r is the radius. We still need to be familiar with that form, but we're also going to be talking about general form today. And we need to be able to convert from general form to standard form, and from standard form to general form. So this arrow should have been going both ways. Sorry about that. Okay, so to convert from general to standard, you have to do a method called completing the square. And here's all your steps for completing the square, which we will go over as we tackle a problem. To convert from standard to general, you need to know how to multiply. You're going to either take a perfect square trinomial shortcut, or you're just going to box multiply to multiply it out. So let's jump right in, because this quiz is going to take us a little bit of time with all of this algebra involved. Alright, so this one says, the equation of the circle is this. What is the radius of the circle? We cannot look at this form and figure out the center or the radius. We need to be in standard form to figure out the center or the radius. So we're going to take this equation and we're going to convert it to standard form to find the center and the radius. Alright? So I'm going to follow these steps that I've given to complete the square. The first thing, you want to group your x's and leave a blank. So I'm going to take my x's, x squared plus 10x plus a blank. I grouped them with parentheses. Then I want to group my y's. So I'm going to put my y squared minus 4y and leave a blank. And then I want to move my constant, my plain number, to the other side. And if I want to move negative 20 across the equals, I would have to add 20 to both sides, because a negative 20 and a positive 20 would cancel. So this is going to equal positive 20. But because it's an equation, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So since I added 2 blanks on this side of the equation, I need to make sure that I add 2 blanks on this side of the equation as well. So that's your first step to set it up. You group your x's, leave a blank. You group your y's, leave a blank. You move your constants over, constant, I don't know why I made that plural, and then you put 2 blanks on that side. Now we're going to complete the square by taking the middle term and dividing it by 2 and squaring it. So I'm going to take this middle term here, 10, and I'm going to divide 10 by 2, which is 5, and then I'm going to square it. That's the same formula you always do. You always divide it by 2 and square it. So I'm going to add 25 to this side and 25 to that side. Whatever you add to one side of the equation, you have to add to the other. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my y's. I'm going to take my middle term, which is negative 4. I'm going to divide it by 2, which is negative 2. And then I'm going to square that, and it'll become positive 4. So I'm going to add 4 to this side, and I'm going to add 4 to that side. Now the cool thing, once we do this process where we complete the square, this is a perfect square trinomial, and it factors really easily for us. And the way that it factors is whatever you got when you divided that middle number by 2, like here we got 5, that's what it's going to factor down to. And that's just a shortcut that you're probably going to want to remember, because I don't really want you to have to factor this every time. So we're just going to take x plus whatever number we got when we divided by 2, and square it. And then to factor this down, you just take y plus, and then whatever number you got when you divided by 2, which is a negative 2, squared. And that's going to equal whatever we get when we add up this side. So let's see, that's 49. So what we've done is we've just taken our equation and we've put it in standard form. I'm going to get rid of that plus sign there, so it's just y minus 2. Now that it's in standard form, we can find the radius, because remember, in standard form it equals the radius squared. So the radius squared equals 49. If I square root both sides, the radius would be 7 units. Alright, so for the next problem, same thing. We have a general form of a circle, and we want to know the center of the circle. Well, we cannot figure out the center unless it's in standard form. So we're going to complete the square to get it into standard form. So the first step of completing the square, We want to group our x's, leave a blank. So x squared minus 4x plus blank. Then we want to group our y's. So y squared minus 8y and leave a blank. We want to move our constant, our regular number over. So I'm going to add 5 to each side. So it's going to equal 5, and then we have to put both blanks on this side as well, because whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other. All right, next we're going to complete our square, and we always use this formula here. We take that middle term, divide it by 2, and then square it. So I'm going to add 4 to this side, and I'm going to add 4 to that side. We're going to do the same thing for y. We're going to take that middle number, divide it by 2, and then square it. So I'm going to add 16 to this spot and 16 to that spot. The whole reason we do that is because now we have a perfect square trinomial here and here that will factor easily for us. So remember, to factor those, you can take the shortcut where you just take whatever you got when you divided by 2 and plug it in there. That'll save us a little bit of time if you can remember it. And then it's going to equal whatever you get when you add this side up. So 16 plus 4 plus 5 is 25. We've just taken our equation from general form and converted it to standard form. And the whole reason for that is we want to know the center. And remember, the center of the circle is when you change the sign of h and k. So our center here is going to be a positive 2 and a positive 4, because we just changed the sign of h and k. All right, so the standard form of the equation is given. What is the general form? So this way we're going opposite direction. So we have a couple different ways we can do this. I'm going to show you one on each problem because I don't have time to do each way. So the first way that I would do it, because I don't have a great memory, is I would just multiply it all out. That's what I usually fall back on, because none of this stuff down here is on your formula sheet. So if you're going to use these shortcuts, you have to memorize them. So I'm just going to multiply it out. If I have x minus 5 squared, that's the same thing as writing x minus 5 twice. And then I'm going to go ahead and box multiply that out. Some of you may have learned to FOIL. You can FOIL as well if you like that method better. But to fill in the box, x times x is x squared. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. And negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. Then I'm going to combine my like terms in the middle, and look, it kind of makes a plus sign here if you can visualize that. So this would be x squared. Negative 5x plus negative 5x would be negative 10x, and then plus 25. So all I've done so far is I've taken this first piece here and I've multiplied it out. Now I'm going to take my second piece and I'm going to multiply it out as well. I'm going to box multiply again. So y minus 6 squared is the same thing as having y minus 6 twice. So I'm going to draw my box, put y minus 6 on top, y minus 6 on the side, and multiply it out. Y times y is y squared. Y times negative 6 is negative 6y. This one's also negative 6y, and this one is positive 36. Combine your like terms. So you get y squared minus 12y plus 36. All right, and then now that I've multiplied those out, I'm just going to bring down the plus sign, and I'm going to bring down the equals 1. And from here, it's just a matter of rearranging it to getting it how we want it. We want our x squareds first, then our y squared. So I'm going to put my x squared, and I'm going to cross them out as I go. And then plus y squared. And then we want our x's, so minus 10x. Then we want our y's, minus 12y. And then we want our numbers all together. So 25 plus 36. That equals 61. And you can do these next two steps in one step if you want to. But I also need it to equal 0, so I'm going to subtract 1 from each side. So this is what I get. X squared plus y squared. Oops, that looks terrible. Minus 10x minus 12y plus 60 equals 0. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, The center of the circle is located at -2, 7, and the radius is at 2. So we're going to start off just by writing an equation of a circle, right? If we're given the center and the radius, we have to put it in standard form. So remember, when you plug it into standard form, you change the signs of your x, and you change the sign of your y, and then it's going to equal the radius squared, and 2 squared would be 4. So that's the correct equation of the circle. Unfortunately, they don't want it in that form. They want it in general form. So now we're going to do what we did on the last problem, and we're going to multiply it out. Now this time, instead of box multiplying, I'm going to show you the shortcut. I don't use these often, but if you can remember them, then they do make it shorter. If you have a perfect square binomial, which means you're multiplying the same thing times the same thing, which we do, all you have to do is the first one will be x squared. So let me show you, x squared. For the middle term, you add your two, well, it says twice the product of the binomial's first and last term. So if I look here, my first term is a 1, my last term is a 2. So if I add those, and then I multiply that by 2, I'm saying this in such a bad way. We're always going to have a 1 here, so you could do 1 times 2, but then you want to do twice that. So 2 times 2 is 4. So this middle term would be a 4x. And then for the last term, you want to square the last one. So 2 squared is 4. Okay, let's try it again, because that shortcut might have been confusing. You take your first term and you square it. Y squared. Then I'm going to take this term and I'm going to do twice that. So -7 times 2 is -14x. And then I'm going to take my -7 and I'm going to square it. -7 squared is 49. So that's the shortcut. I don't have it memorized, so I usually box multiply, but if you understand that, then take it. It'll make your life easier. Then we just have to get it in the order we want. We want x squared, then y squared, then the x, then the y. Oops, that's supposed to be a y. Then we're going to combine our like terms, and we're going to actually move the 4 over as we combine, so I'm just going to cancel those. So it's going to equal 49. Let's keep going. All right, here's the last one. What is the equation of the circle in general form? So they give us the circle, and we have to start off by writing the equation. So to write an equation, we need to know the center, which the center is located at -4, -5. And we also need to know the radius. So we're just going to start from the center and count, following the grid, 1, 2, 3, 4. The radius is 4 units. So we know the center and the radius. That means we can plug it into standard form. Remember, when you plug in your x value, you want to change the sign. And when you plug in your y value, you want to change the sign. And then it's going to equal the radius squared. And 4 squared is 16. Once we get to here, though, it wants it in general form, so we have to do some math. If you understand the shortcut, please take it. I'm going to go ahead and box multiply because that's how I usually do it. So x plus 4 squared, we have to do that twice because it's squared. So I would get x squared, a 4x, and a 16. Then I would add my like terms to get x squared plus 8x plus 16. All right, then I'm going to do the same thing for y plus 5 squared. Anytime you square something, you have it twice. So I have a y plus 5 on the top and a y plus 5 on the bottom, or on the side. Multiply it out, y squared, 5y, and 25. I know I'm going really fast, but I'm almost at my time limit. So combine your like terms. And then just bring down what we haven't used. So bring down our plus sign and bring down the equal 16. Then put it in order. X squared comes first, then y squared, then x, then y. Then combine your like terms and move 16 over. So we get 25 equals 0. All right, y'all, good luck on your quiz. There's a lot of algebra involved, so this is definitely a video you might have to go back and pause and rewatch and all that jazz. Take your time. You can do it.